the Grand Intimidation failure, marked by the arrival of the Supreme Authority. The Carvothian Empire had subjugated 473 worlds across 12 galaxies. Supreme Commander Zelthor had personally directed 62 of those victories. He knew the pattern by heart: arrive in unstoppable force, broadcast the promise of inevitable submission, and watch the lesser species crumble in terror. It had worked flawlessly, every single time. Earth, he believed, would be no exception. The colossal dreadnought descended into Earth's skies, its shadow engulfing half of Geneva, Switzerland. The vessel stretched 3 miles long, forged of dark crystalline alloy that devoured surrounding light. Weapon ports shimmered with restrained energy along its hull. 20 escort warships orbited it in symmetrical precision. This was the Carvothian creed: grace, power, and unquestioned supremacy. Zelthor stood within the transport beam as it lowered him and his elite guard to the ground. Even among galactic powers, his form was commanding, 9 feet tall, skin the hue of midnight, etched with silver rank markings. 6 eyes, aligned in 2 neat rows, gave him vision across countless spectrums. 4 clawed hands had signed 473 surrenders. His armor, forged from a star's collapsed heart, hummed with layered defenses. The landing zone had been chosen for impact, the plaza before the United Nations headquarters. Maximum visibility, maximum audience, maximum psychological shock. As his feet touched down, Zelthor triggered his presence field, a biotech augmentation that radiated primal terror, stimulating the fear centers of most carbon-based minds. Lesser species usually collapsed instantly. The plaza overflowed with humans, hundreds, perhaps thousands, held back by barriers, cameras aimed. Zelthor waited for panic, screams, flight. Instead, he heard something he had never experienced at any first contact: applause. A human male in a dark suit stepped forward, hand extended. Zelthor recognized the gesture from the archives, a greeting. The man was smiling, you said actually smiling. "Supreme Commander Zelthor, welcome to Earth. I'm Secretary General Okonkwo. We've been expecting you since your fleet entered our solar system 3 days ago. We have a conference room ready inside. I trust your journey was comfortable?" Zelthor's presence field was still operating at full intensity. This human should be writhing on the ground, not making polite conversation about travel. The commander's forward hands clenched into fists. "I am Zelthor, Supreme Commander of the Carvothian Imperial Fleet, voice of the Eternal Throne, conqueror of the Southern Spiral, bearer of—" "That's wonderful," Okonkwo interrupted smoothly. "We printed your titles on the nameplates for the table. Yours required a smaller font to fit them all. Shall we proceed? Refreshments are waiting." The conference room was bewildering in its simplicity. A long wooden table, cushioned chairs, pictures of oceans, and trays of tiny sandwiches. Zelthor had expected a throne chamber, or at least a tactical command center. Instead, it looked like a space where humans debated financial policies. 20 humans sat around the table studying him with calm interest. Not terror, interest, as though he were a rare specimen, not a galactic conqueror. Zelthor's upper left eye twitched involuntarily. "Let us begin," he declared, amplifying his voice until the walls trembled. "Your world has been chosen for assimilation into the Carvothian Empire. You will surrender all military assets, all governance, all planetary resources. You will swear fealty to the Eternal Throne. Resistance is futile. Compliance is not optional. You have 1 planetary rotation to agree." He struck the table with 1 clawed hand, the sound echoing with authority. Then silence. He waited for panic, pleading, bargaining. None came. A woman in a decorated uniform raised her hand. "Yes?" Zelthor asked, momentarily disoriented by the gesture. "General Martinez, United States Space Force," she said crisply. "Quick question about your fleet composition." "We counted 1 dreadnought, 20 cruisers, and roughly 40 support vessels. Is that your standard invasion structure, or are there additional ships we've yet to detect?" Zelthor blinked. "What?" A man wearing thick glasses leaned forward next. "Dr. Patel, astrophysics." "I'm curious about your propulsion system," Dr. Patel continued. "We detected unusual gravitational distortions as your fleet approached. Are you employing controlled space-time compression? The power demands must be astronomical. That information is classified military data," Zelthor replied sharply. Before he could continue, a young woman interjected, her tone bright with fascination. Your presence field is remarkable. We've been tracking the electromagnetic and possibly psionic frequencies since your landing. Is it biological, technological, or a biotech hybrid? We'd love to collaborate on a paper. Zathor felt the certainty drain from his stance. This was not conquest. Where was the panic? The awe? Why were they discussing energy output as though this were a research symposium? Secretary General Okonkwo cleared his throat politely. Perhaps we should move to the, proposal commanders Thor mentioned. Any comments? An elderly man in a tweed jacket raised a hand. Ambassador Chen, representing the Asian Continental Alliance, he said evenly. Commander, while we appreciate your straightforwardness, we can't simply relinquish Earth's sovereignty without deliberation. We represent over 7 billion people, countless governments, and differing cultures. Even if we wish to accept your terms immediately and we don't, it would require years of consultation and negotiation. Years? Zethor's voice spiked 3 octaves higher. You have 1 rotation, 1 day. That seems rather impractical, Chen continued calmly. Tell me, how did you handle democratic procedures on other worlds you've annexed? Surely some had representative systems. They submitted or were eradicated. I see, Chen said, taking notes. So you bypassed democratic consensus entirely. Efficient, yes, but ethically troubling. Zethor's patience finally cracked. He tapped his wrist communicator, projecting a massive holographic display across the room. The Carvothian fleet appeared above Earth, precise, formidable. Then the image shifted, replaying a prior conquest, a demonstration of power and annihilation. The projection showed a planet's capital city erased in moments by orbital bombardment, towers vaporized, the surface aflame, millions dead before their screams could echo. The humans observed in silence. When the recording ended, several calmly took notes on their tablets. That's a war crime, General Martinez said evenly. Actually, several. Indiscriminate targeting of civilians, excessive use of force, no distinction between combatants and non-combatants. That's going straight to the International Criminal Court. Oh, right, interplanetary jurisdiction now. We'll need a galactic criminal court. Add that to the agenda. A war crime? Thor's breathing grew uneven. I've just demonstrated the Empire's might, he thundered. No, Dr. Patel replied quietly. You demonstrated that you're capable of genocide. That's not strength, Commander. That's just mass murder wrapped in advanced engineering. The coffee break incident. Someone proposed a recess. Moments later, Thor found himself in a smaller room. Soft couches, a humming device dispensing a steaming brown liquid the humans called coffee. Secretary General Okonkwo handed him a cup. Try it, he said. Cream and sugar. I do not require your... Just try it, Commander. Thor hesitated. His fury had decayed into confusion. He raised the cup and took a cautious sip. The taste was sharp, hot, bitter, and laced with a stimulant his biology responded to instantly. Against his will, he took another. Good, right? Okonkwo smiled. Coffee, one of our finest inventions. Some say it built modern civilization. He leaned back, studying the towering alien. Look, Commander, I understand you have a duty. To do, Okonkwo continued. You've conquered hundreds of worlds. You follow procedure. But Earth is different. Every species claims that, Thor muttered. Maybe, Okonkwo said with a faint smile. But think about this. You showed us planetary annihilation to frighten us. Humans have lived with that possibility for generations. For over 80 years, we've possessed weapons capable of erasing our own civilization. We've survived the threat of nuclear winter, climate collapse, rogue asteroids, and runaway artificial intelligence. We've imagined every apocalypse you can name and turned them into entertainment. That orbital strike you showed? We've seen it in at least 30 movies. 2 won Academy Awards. Zethor stared, incredulous. You create entertainment about your own extinction? The session reconvened. Zethor decided on another tactic, unquestionable superiority. Our dreadnought, he proclaimed, can fracture a planet's crust with a single strike. Our shields endure the output of a main-sequence star. Our drives can traverse a galaxy in mere weeks. Your technology lags centuries behind. Resistance is not only futile, It is mathematically impossible. The humans nodded slowly, taking notes. Then the questions began. What's your shield's refresh rate? Asked General Martinez. How much antimatter do you store for propulsion? Dr. Patel added. What's your primary weapon's heat dissipation system? Another scientist chimed in. Can we review the schematics? Someone else asked eagerly. Zathor realized he was answering reflexively, almost against his will. Their inquiries were precise, technical, and alarmingly advanced. Yes, he heard himself say. The shields refresh every 0.3 seconds. Yes, antimatter is maintained in magnetic confinement. And yes, thermal dissipation remains a persistent engineering challenge. An hour later, Zathor realized he'd been hosting a scientific workshop instead of leading a planetary subjugation. The humans were jotting notes, posing follow-up questions, and even debating how to enhance Carvothian technology. You know, Dr. Patel remarked, your antimatter containment seems inefficient. At CERN, we've theorized improvements. If you refine the magnetic field geometry and integrate quantum stabilization, you could boost fuel efficiency by 15 to 20%. That's classified military data, Thor protested weakly. Of course, Patel nodded. But if you're ever open to collaboration, imagine the results. Carvothian engineering paired with human creativity. Together, we could revolutionize galactic propulsion. The evening report. That night, Zathor stood on the flagship's command deck, preparing his message to the Eternal Throne. His second-in-command approached, balancing 4 cups of coffee freshly acquired from Earth. Sir, what are we reporting? Thex asked. Zathor gazed down at the blue planet rotating below. In my 62 prior campaigns, I've faced warrior species who fought with honor before surrender. I've seen peaceful ones yield instantly to survive. I've met cunning races who schemed and bargained. But never a species that met conquest with paperwork, caffeine, and research proposals. They didn't appear frightened, sir. No, Thor murmured. They seemed curious. And that's far more unsettling. He turned sharply toward his navigator. They want to found a galactic criminal court. They want to publish analyses of our weapon systems. One of them invited me to lecture at Oxford University about cross-cultural warfare. What is an Oxford University? An educational facility, sir. They want to educate me, Zathor growled. I came to conquer them. His 4 hands gestured wildly. And this coffee, it's dangerously addictive. I've consumed 7 cups. What's our plan for tomorrow, Commander? Zathor exhaled heavily, all 6 eyes closing for a moment. Tomorrow we attempt again. The Eternal Throne demands conquest. But tonight, we study human psychological behavior and determine what went wrong. Also, secure more coffee for strategic evaluation. Below, Earth turned quietly, its cities glimmering against the dark. Somewhere down there, Secretary General Okonkwo was likely drafting more documents, brewing another pot, and planning how to turn invasion into diplomacy. Zathor realized with a slow chill that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't technology or firepower. It was humanity's utter refusal to believe that any problem couldn't be discussed, reasoned, or resolved over drinks and polite conversation. The conquest of Earth was unraveling spectacularly when fear tactics met human nature. The demonstration of power. Dawn broke across Geneva, and Zathor was resolved to reclaim control. He had spent the night reviewing centuries of Carvothian conquests, consulting with the Imperial High Command, and consuming what humans called espresso, apparently a more concentrated version of coffee. Now he understood how this species had managed planetary domination. Their beverages made delusion feel like strategy. Today would be different. No more civility, no more technical banter. Today humanity would learn fear. The Carvothian fleet descended into low orbit, positioning directly above major human cities: New York, London, Beijing, Mumbai, São Paulo, Lagos, Sydney, Tokyo. Each metropolis now lay under the shadow of a hovering warship. The psychological blow would be catastrophic. Zathor stood once more in the Geneva Plaza, this time flanked by 50 fully armored warriors. Their weapons hummed with lethal energy. His presence field surged at maximum output, augmented by 3 portable amplifiers. Birds plummeted mid-flight, animals bolted, and nearby foliage visibly wilted. Then Secretary General Okonkwo arrived. Same calm demeanor, same unshakable smile, accompanied by the original delegation plus 30 new figures carrying cameras, sensors, and one enthusiast with a large buzzing drone orbiting Zathor's head. "Good morning, Commander," Okonkwo called brightly. "Beautiful day for a demonstration of overwhelming power, isn't it? We've brought the international press, CNN, BBC, Al Jazeera, and a couple dozen others. We thought if you're going to showcase your fleet, we should document it properly. Is that acceptable? We can have them step back if you prefer privacy." Zathor's composure faltered. "You want to film this?" "Well, of course," Okonkwo replied. "This is historic. First contact with an interstellar empire. Demonstration of alien military capabilities. Billions of people are watching the live broadcast. We've linked feeds to the UN Assembly, major universities, and military networks worldwide." "Everyone's very excited," he added cheerfully. "Excited?" Zathor echoed, voice cracking. "Absolutely. Dr. Patel brought students from CERN, MIT sent observers. Representatives from SpaceX, NASA, ESA, ISRO, and 40 other space agencies are all tuning in." Woman, probably in her early 20s, approached Zathor during a brief intermission. She had vivid purple hair and carried a sketchbook almost as large as her. "Excuse me, Commander," she said brightly. "Amaya, art student from NYU. Would you mind if I drew you? You have such fascinating features. The way light bounces off those silver markings is gorgeous." Zathor blinked. "You wish to create art of me? If that's okay," Amaya replied, already flipping open her sketchbook. "I'm studying xenobiological aesthetics. We rarely get to draw actual aliens. Usually it's just imagination and bad CGI." Before Zathor could answer, her pencil was moving. A small crowd gathered. Other artists joined in. Within minutes, a dozen humans were seated on the plaza, sketching and painting the Carvothian warriors. Some warriors, bewildered but oddly pleased, began to pose proudly. "Your armor's incredible," one painter said. "Is it functional or ceremonial?" "Both," a Carvothian answered before Zathor could stop him. "It offers full battle protection and denotes rank and honors." "Fascinating," the artist said. "So functional fashion. We have that too, like dress uniforms." Within an hour, Carvothian soldiers were deep in conversation with fashion students, discussing design, symbolism, and tradition. One warrior began teaching a group of humans a traditional war chant. Strangely, it sounded like a football anthem. Soon, both species were singing together. Thor watched in disbelief. This was no conquest. This was a cultural exchange. The food incident, someone suggested lunch. Zathor attempted to decline, but too late. His warriors were already being guided toward food trucks. Food trucks. At his invasion, a smiling chef handed him something wrapped in paper. "Tacos al pastor," she said. "Pork, pineapple, cilantro, onions. Try it. You'll love it." Thor hesitated. He had eaten ration cubes on 473 campaigns. Never local cuisine. It seemed undignified and possibly lethal, yet he took a bite. All 6 eyes widened. The taste was indescribable. Savory meat, sweet fruit, sharp onion, fresh herbs. His taste receptors, bred for neutral nutrients, sparked to life. So this was why humans obsessed over food. It's good, right? The chef grinned. "Want another? Free for our galactic guests." Around him, his warriors were having similar revelations, devouring pizza, sushi, curry, dumplings, and a delicate pastry called a croissant that made several weep openly. A veteran of 16 campaigns was passionately debating a Korean grandmother about the correct way to ferment kimchi. Then Thex approached, holding 3 tacos. "Commander, we may have a situation." "Only one?" Zathor muttered. "The entire crew, 3,000 strong, is requesting permission to beam down for lunch." Word of the tacos has spread. The evening summit by nightfall. Zathor had consented to a formal summit, not because he wanted diplomacy, but because his troops refused to leave until they sampled something called barbecue. His captains were filing requests for extended cultural immersion. The meeting took place at a neutral site, a Geneva conference center that had hosted generations of human negotiations. The room overflowed, diplomats, scientists, officers, and citizens, teachers, farmers, artists, all waiting to meet their would-be conquerors. Engineers filled the hall, murmuring with interest as Secretary General Okonkwo stepped to the podium. "Commander Zathor," she began, "these past 2 days have been productive. We've learned much about your empire, your technology, and your people, and you've learned about ours. I think it's time we speak about the future, not as conquerors and conquered, but as potential partners." "The Eternal Throne will never permit it," Zathor said flatly. Dr. Patel tilted her head. "Tell me about the Eternal Throne. You mention it often. Is it one ruler, a council, or something else? How are decisions made?" Thor hesitated, then surprised even himself by answering. "It's complex. The throne is ruled by 12 elder species, the original founders. They govern through consensus, which means nothing ever truly changes. The Empire hasn't revised its conquest protocols in 3,000 years. 3,000. Ambassador Chen leaned forward. "Commander, the universe evolves. What worked then can't work forever. Has no one ever pushed for reform? Many have tried," Thor admitted. None succeeded. "The throne believes change brings chaos. They think tradition keeps order. But does it bring happiness? Progress?" Okonkwo asked softly. "You've conquered 473 worlds. Are they better off or merely obedient?" Thor fell silent. No one had ever dared to ask him such things. "I don't know," he said finally. General Martinez rose. "Commander, let me tell you what's really happening. You came expecting fear, surrender, submission. But Earth is different. We've never met aliens before, so we have no idea how we're supposed to react. So we're reacting like we do to everything, curiously, skeptically, with paperwork. And food." Laughter rippled through the hall, even from some Carvothians. "You've shown us your power," Martinez continued, "and we respect it. You could destroy us, we know that. But you've overlooked something. You could also learn from us. Your empire is stagnant, trapped in repetition. Humanity went from cave art to space stations in 12,000 years. We're inventive, reckless, adaptable, maybe chaotic. But that chaos breeds new ideas." Dr. Patel stood. "What if instead of conquest we collaborate? You share your knowledge, we share innovation. You teach us the galaxy, we teach you how to change. Instead of adding Earth by force, make us the first voluntary member of a reformed empire." "The throne will never allow it," Zathor said, but his tone wavered. "Then maybe it's time someone challenged the throne," Okonkwo replied quietly. "You command 473 worlds, Commander. You've seen what works and what doesn't. If anyone can lead reform, it's you." "You're asking me to commit treason," Zathor murmured. "We're asking you to commit progress," Ambassador Chen said gently. "There's a difference." Thor looked around the room. Humans who should have been terrified were instead offering friendship. His warriors were showing off taco photos to journalists. These beings, fragile, irrational, brilliant, were offering him something he'd never seen before. Choice. "I need time to think," he said finally. "Of course," Okonkwo smiled. "While you decide, we've arranged cultural exchanges. Your crew can tour our cities, art, music, and food. What do you say?" As Thor thought about the report he'd have to file, the excuses he'd have to make, and the fact that in 3 days he'd conquered nothing, except perhaps a taco addiction. Then he thought of 3,000 years of stagnation, 473 worlds waiting for something better, an empire that had forgotten how to learn. "Yes," he said softly. "Let us learn from each other." Applause filled the chamber, human and Carvothian voices blending in celebration. Not a victory, not a defeat, a beginning. The report that night, Zathor composed the most unusual dispatch in Imperial history. To the Eternal Throne, Earth integration proceeding unlike prior conquests. Intimidation ineffective due to human psychological resilience and their confounding optimism. Recommend new approach, voluntary alliance with cultural and technological exchange. Suspend traditional conquest directives. Implement cooperative diplomacy. Urgent recommendation, introduce coffee into imperial logistics for morale and strategic advantage. Full report to follow. Request more coffee. Commander Thor. He sent the message and waited. The reply would take weeks. In the meantime, he'd agreed to address the United Nations. Attend a concert. Humans, he discovered, made music that could move the soul and serve as a judge in something called a cooking competition. 3 days ago, he had come to conquer. Now, he was discovering a better way to connect civilizations. Messy, unpredictable, full of debate, caffeine, and shared meals, but maybe, just maybe, it could work. As he looked down at the glowing world below, Thor wondered not whether the galaxy was ready for humanity, but whether anyone was ready for what would come next.